Welcome into Monday Mornings with Matt and Kevin here on the Catholic Family Podcast. These two will debate real-life issues from a Catholic perspective every Monday at 9 Eastern. Topics that come up around the dinner table will be given the truth treatment with no punches held and no falsehood left standing. Sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Matt and Kevin.
Well, good morning to you all. Good morning, my good friend Matt. Good to be back on with you, as always, on a Monday morning. We hope everyone is enjoying their beginning to the week. I know Monday mornings for me, and probably everyone else, is pretty tough. You get a couple hours in, and I always feel like, oh, man, I'm going to need at least 2 cups of coffee. And typically, I take, 2 or 3 cups of coffee. I don't know. Matt, I don't know. Are you? How many coffees do you drink a day? I don't know.
A day?
Yeah.
Probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, okay, that's about
depending.
Yeah,
not terrible. Depends on the time of day.
Yeah, I know a guy who drinks 7 or 8, but he says he drinks it just black, and he says that if you don't put sugar or cream in it, it kind of takes away the bad effects of coffee. And
yes, they tell us, the air quote experts tell us that coffee is very good for us.
I'll take it.
Do you think? I was thinking the connotation of Mondays is so bad. What if they changed the name of the days of the week? What if it was still Monday, but it was actually called Wednesday? Do you think we would do better?
Maybe. Yeah, probably. It is. There's something mental about
it's Wednesday. Yeah, right.
It's Wednesday. Bad. I got this.
Yeah. Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Thursday.
It's kind of like I used to set my alarm clock in the morning with songs that I liked. So like my favorite songs, I put that as my alarm. And then eventually I started to hate the song because that was my alarm. So now I just have this really soft Gregorian chant, which is actually fantastic.
There you go.
And I've had that for years.
Soothing. What did people do, Kev, before alarm clocks? How did they wake up on time?
There were waker-uppers. Matt, thank you for asking me one of the most random pieces of knowledge.
And know this?
There were literally people called waker-uppers. I'm pretty sure that was their name. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but they would literally, this was like, at least I think this was in London, Georgian time London. People would go around and knock. You'd set the time. You say, "Hey, I need to be woken up at 6 o'clock or whatever in the morning." They come by and knock on your window. Yeah, legit.
Really? Would you have done this? Would you have done that job?
No, I don't want to be up that early waking people up. I'd be the one getting woken up, I guess. But it'd be an interesting job. I mean, just walk around with a big stick, knocking on people's windows. I think they're called waker uppers.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. Hey, man, maybe someday we're going to lose all of our electricity and stuff, like our good black-pilled friends want us to, that it's all going to be the end of the world. And maybe that's a job description that someone out there just might be able to do.
Well, it wouldn't be me.
No, it wouldn't be me there. No, I'm not a morning person. But I got to say, man, two other things. I'm a little sick, so if people hear it in my voice,
I can hear it.
I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so sorry for the weird nasal voice. But the good side is I got a pretty sweet new office chair. I don't know. You could probably see it, Matt.
I can't.
Everyone else, I know. Yeah, you can't really see it, but you can. It's this cozy leather
your microphone.
Chair.
I'm surprised. It's 2024, and you hold your microphone like from like a 1980s. Like, where's the?
Did I tell you this story?
Why don't you have a real one?
Did I tell you the story, Matt? I had a guy from the U.S. He was visiting Germany, and he came over to our house for Thanksgiving, actually, and he's like, "Hey, man, can I see the famous
studio
podcast studio?" And he comes and he's like, "Oh." Really? Because it's not quite as cool as it looks on the camera. I cheat a little bit, I suppose.
I have a secret.
I do hold my camera, or my camera.
Your microphone, we're in 1980s karaoke.
Yes, sir.
I saw, because I asked him. I saw Novus Ordo Watch Studio.
Oh.
I saw what I asked. I said I want to see the setup.
Nice.
And Mario's got a microphone stand. It's a nice microphone. And it's got a whole boom. I think they call them boom arms or whatever. Yeah. Like
fancy.
You got the Catholic Family Podcast Studio. What floor are you broadcasting from?
Yeah, well, I actually like it better because I typically, if I don't hold something in my hand, I'm going to be fiddling anyway. I got to have something in my hand, so it actually works.
All right.
And it's just, I don't know. I've never really wanted to spend money on it since I feel like I don't need to. So. But if anyone wants to just send me a really nice microphone, I'd take it. Sure.
Mm-hmm. It produces good sound for. I mean, I don't know if it's cheap.
No, it was a recording microphone that my father-in-law had.
Figured.
back in the day.
Right.
So it was a garage band type mic, but it
yeah.
cool.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Right.
Does the job. Anyway, speaking of doing the job, this is pretty
Microphones
interesting.
and waking up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Waking up in the morning, coffee, chairs. Well, we wanted to start the show out. Of course, we're going to talk a bit about Trump because that's just unbelievable in the news that's going around. We want to talk a bit about Archbishop, quote unquote, Vigano and his recent comments, which Matt's going to kind of fill us in on, and I don't understand whatsoever. But I want to start out with something that came up on my Facebook news feed the other day, and this is pretty interesting. This is according to The Athletic. Actually, I guess the actual article is New York Times. And it says, quote, the MLB will integrate Negro League records into a statistical database on Wednesday. With that change, Josh Gibson will replace Ty Cobb as baseball's all-time batting leader in the official records. Josh Gibson will then he hit a lifetime average of 372. Ty Cobb 367, which is, anyone who knows baseball, that's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane that you could hit that for a career. But Matt, because I'm going to rant onto this a bit, but what are your impressions of this?
Oh, well, I think I mean, it's on the why don't you drop the microphone? On the graphic that's shown here, they show the leaders and they show the top 10 batting averages. And, one of those things that you perceive as always being cemented in stone as MLB's probably one of MLB's safest records would be Ty Cobb's batting average. And this was eclipsed on the first day of the week, Wednesday. It was a joke. I said it before you missed when I threw that in there.
Oh, man.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And it's, people are going to say that anybody who doesn't agree with incorporating these stats into MLB's official category are racist. But the simple reasoning here is these aren't MLB stats.
They didn't play in the MLB. And this is so dumb. And I greatly respect these players. I think it was terrible that they were kept out of the league. I am fully on board saying that it was absolutely a travesty that black players were not allowed to play in the MLB. That is totally, totally true. And maybe these players could have had the chance to make these records in the MLB. But you know what, Matt? They didn't. Factually, Matt, they didn't. They didn't play. They should have. They didn't. They did not earn these stats in the MLB. They cannot be MLB stats. It would be Matt, what are they going to do? Women's softball. They're going to put women's softball numbers up there. Jesse Schmitz hit 465 her entire career. They're going to put her in there with the MLB.
A good comparison, Kev, is then they need to start all these players that come over from Japan. Their stats in Japan count.
Sure.
And Ichiro must be the MLB all-time hit leader or whatever he might be there, and all of these
5,000 hits or something.
Yeah, right. So you might as well just incorporate it all if it's all the same. I agree with you. One of the best players to come into the league of all time, Jackie Robinson, and he crossed that. He crossed that
hero
that bridge. And was a phenomenal ball player. Revolutionized. Is still an icon today. His number is retired. Probably one of the most recognizable players, not only for the Dodgers but in all MLB history. It just wasn't Major League Baseball. I mean, what more argument could you possibly want? These aren't MLB stats. So to just insert him, Josh Gibson, I don't even know who that is.
I've heard his name. I've heard his name, actually, Josh Gibson, yeah.
They're just not. It's just not. Maybe they want to keep the. They don't want to have an. Is there still a Negro League record anymore? I don't know, but
probably not. It's 1984, Matt. It's just making things up. You're literally just like, well, this is what it is. This is now the truth because we say it's the truth. It's literally not. They actually didn't play in the MLB. This is so absolute. I can't even believe it. I can't believe they're doing this now. If you want to put in Cooperstown, the Hall of Fame, if you want to put the stats side by side, if you want to put an entire building saying that these men should have been in, here are their stats. Great. I'm totally behind that. They didn't play in the MLB. They cannot be added to the stats records of the MLB. Absolutely insane. Ridiculous. Yeah. It just shows you that our world is so dumb that they just think they can get away with this stuff. Just, by the way, these black players who, absolutely were mistreated.
And now
they're just their stats.
I had some pulled up. It said now it looks like Nolan Ryan is no longer the all-time leader in no-hitters. They're going to incorporate Satchel Paige's no-hitters in the Negro League with his MLB numbers here. And now, so all these records that stood forever are just all of a sudden not going to stand. And it seems with a quick search that it seems like this is a pretty popular move. It just seems like most people are on board with this and don't see anything wrong with it. Here, one of the
because you can't, because you, as you said, and when we started, as you said, you can't, because if you do, you're a racist.
Here, right, you can't oppose it. Players like Josh Gibson are now mixed in with names like Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and Barry Bonds. Regardless of what you think of Barry Bonds, I mean, these are iconic baseball names. It's just inserted into it. I don't know. I think it's silly. I think it's just another way of trying to forget our past. And I think, I don't if you've ever been to Cooperstown, but it actually it's you can. I don't want to compare this to all that. Remember the whole battle with the Confederate flag in the South and what Nikki Haley did, all that stuff that took place down south. It just tells the story of American history, and I think it should be recognized, and I think it should be looked at, and I think it could be something that is looked back on and studied and reviewed and taken it for what it was. But you can't bring back what once happened. And I think those stats just need to, I mean, here's a picture of him here. Josh Gibson was a legend who died at the age of 35. He should now be a household name. All of a sudden, Josh Gibson is the greatest slugger of all time.
But see, again, Matt, it's like, I mean, you can say that he should be a legend. I'm fine with that. I mean, he was, maybe he wasn't allowed to be the best. Maybe he would have been the best all time. I mean, that is a fair thing to say. He can be a legend. He can be a hero. He can be put on the walls of children now and spoken of with Babe Ruth, etc., but not in the MLB.
They weren't logged
he
MLB
didn't
stats.
play in the MLB. It's so bizarre. It's kind of like, it's like you said, it's rewriting history. It's just like, if you just decide, hey, I don't really like it that Thomas Jefferson had slaves. So you know what? Actually, we're just going to say in our history books that he didn't. He just didn't have slaves. Like, he's our hero, so he didn't have slaves because we don't like it. We don't want him to, or let's say Abraham Lincoln. Did you actually know he was black, Matt? He was actually black. He was an African American man. Abraham Lincoln was actually not a white man. He was a black man. What? Why not? Why not do this? I mean, Matt, this is what they're just making that they're creating something that didn't exist.
I think it encapsulates. Yeah, I think it encapsulates our day and time, our era, fairly well. Where we live in a distorted reality, where we live in a world where everything is confused and everything is mumbled together and everything is inverse and everything is just polluted in such a way that there is no truth or right or wrong anymore. I think it just is another wing or another arm of where we are today, especially this month of June, where I'm trying to avoid even saying it, but where nothing is just mattered, nothing just is categorized or matters anymore. And it's just a fake delusional reality that they continue to push. Imagine what you think about all of these things too. The history that our children will be faced with, apart from the actual how do I want to say this? What they hear and what actually happened are oftentimes two very different things. Like you can even read January 6th, that whole insurrection thing is a great example. You can read about all what the narrative is and what articles might say and what stories might be pushed out there. But then actually knowing what actually happened is an entirely different thing. So history is being rewritten before our eyes or ears, and we're just accepting it. And I think you need to, I don't know, just throw it all away. I don't know anymore, but it's very difficult to discern, and getting even harder difficult to discern what is fact, what is true, what is false. Yeah. And now we've got these, I mean, just like I was saying earlier, just incorporate Japanese stats. There's baseball in Mexico and Italy and England even, I think, just throw it all in there. They're all one big stat family. Nolan Ryan, all these records.
Only if these people were persecuted. So maybe the Aboriginal players from Australia, but
true.
Because they were the ones who were mistreated, and it's interesting too for June that you mentioned that, because I don't know if I saw it as a post or in a sermon or something. Isn't it what kind of a country do we live in where they take up an entire month to praise the greatest of the 7 deadly sins? It's like, yeah, and in like the worst possible way, right? It's a remarkable evil that we go through for an entire month.
I know we didn't plan to talk about this at all, but there were a whole bunch of Catholics really flooding Twitter and other social media outlets with the whole June is dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and that went. It was
Nice.
it got noticed everywhere, and I thought how wonderful it was to see all of these Catholics push the truth and not really, I guess you can say, attack the other side, but just put forth the truth. And so that led me to reading an encyclical by Pope Leo the 13th. And as you and I have said before, you read all of these works by all of these popes, and it's almost as if you could read it and have no idea what pontiff actually wrote that, because they all kind of write and sound the same. And he talks about how Catholics ought to inject themselves into public affairs, how Catholics ought to make their voices heard. And one of the things that he said is that we need Catholics to integrate our beliefs into public life, because the words of the gospel are contrary to the ideologies of the heathens, I think he says, or something along those lines. And I thought that line really stood out to me as we incorporate this month. So Leo the 13th encourages us as Catholics to inject our faith into our daily public life. And it was great to see yesterday for Catholics to say June is dedicated to the month of June is dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and we should be honoring that as a society. And it was really widespread. So
that's awesome. No,
it's being bold and pushing these truths.
Yeah, I saw promotion, or I mean, a little bit on our channel was promoted as well for billboards for the Sacred Heart, and I think they paid for 3 or 4, along major roads. I think I forget where, Wisconsin, Ohio, so places in the Midwest, I think generally, and pretty neat. Yeah, it's exactly right. And I think that's just from our little groups, but I think there are other Catholic groups that are doing this type of stuff. And it's absolutely worthwhile. And it is, again, you read the popes, Pius XII, Pius XI, Leo the 13th. I know I've read some of their encyclicals and other letters or whatever. And they've all commented on how we do have to not just run away, not just hide. So the whole Benedict option, or the Benedictine option, where we just kind of literally run away, go somewhere else and hide from society is from what I have read, not what the popes have commanded or asked us to do. And I think that's definitely worth noting that, go out and don't be afraid to tell the truth.
I pulled it up because the opening sentence in this encyclical by Leo the 13th is so beautiful and so well written. I just want to read it because it was so good when I read it the other day. So Leo the 13th, he starts off and he says, the Catholic Church, and when you read this, I'm going to back up a second. I can't help but compare it or weigh it to the conciliar church when you read these things, because think about the Novus Ordo, think about all these things, ecumenism, interreligious dialogue of what you envision the conciliar church looking like, and then hear these words: the Catholic Church, that imperishable handiwork of our all-merciful God, has for her immediate and natural purpose the saving of souls and securing our happiness in heaven. Yet in regard to things temporal, she is the source of benefits as manifold and great as is the chief of her existence, which is to ensure the prospering of our earthly life. And just that alone, it's beautiful to me. And you think of you compare that to what. There's I can, no matter how many times I read these things, they're just
what encyclical is it?
Immorati Dei.
Okay.
So yeah. And then I always love how they end them. I scroll all the way to the bottom, and then the very last words. As a happy, where is it here? To the clergy and to the whole people committed to your charge and vigilance, we grant you lovingly, in the name of our Lord, our apostolic benediction. Like, I don't know. It's just a beautiful, all of these things. And I never planned on talking about this at all, but
we need a true pope, Matt. We need a true pope. Boy, everyone out there, pray to the Sacred Heart. Pray for a true pope, and however God is going to give us one, pray that we in our lifetime, sooner rather than later, we get one, because we need one. And speaking of popes, or not popes, I suppose, and other people who are archbishops or not archbishops, or I have a lot of comments on Vigano, but let me know, what is this story? First of all, I've not followed this one.
I'm surprised. So this got almost 500,000 views, but the message here I thought was rather shocking, and I don't think it I don't know, it didn't make headlines maybe the way I thought it would be, but I'll read it. So it's a tweet from Carlo Maria Vigano on May 29th of this year. And he said, I'll just read his words, on 23rd June 2013, so 11 years ago now, when I met Bergoglio, he asked me abruptly, what is Cardinal McCarrick like? I replied to him, Holy Father, I don't know if you know Cardinal McCarrick, but if you ask the congregation of bishops, there is a dossier this big. He had corrupted generations of seminarians. Bergoglio remained impassive and completely changed the subject. And then here's the shocker here. His reaction is not surprising. Bergoglio himself committed the same abuses as McCarrick when he was master of novices of the Society of Jesus in Argentina, and personally confided to me by one of his former novices. Bergoglio does not want to oust homosexual seminarians and priests. He would rather want to complete the work of infiltration and corruption of the clergy through homosexuality and pedophilia, so that by declassifying the serious sinfulness of sodomy and the corruption of minors, the door opens on civil front to the decriminalization of these crimes. And he goes on a little bit more, but he accused Jorge Bergoglio of sexual abuse when he was master of novices with the Jesuits in Argentina. That's huge.
Wow.
And now, of course, who knows how real it is, but this was, Vigano is a rather well-known name now, I think, in the conciliar world for his position and what he's done with some possible SSPX
which he hasn't even admitted to or not.
Right. Yeah. He's kept that rather silent, and Bishop Sanborn called him out harshly on that. He said the public needs to know if this happened. He by name. He said, Vigano, the public needs to know if this happened or not. This needs to be made known, and Vigano hasn't done or said anything about it. But I thought that was just absolutely monstrous to say. And I know, like I said, it got 500,000 views, and there are some, if you just scroll down, you could read the comments, and there are some well-known names kind of here. If you have proof, bring it forward. These are serious claims, from other conciliar clergy, whatever. But the thing, you hate to speculate and all that, but I guess should say it wouldn't surprise me to hear these things. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to know if that actually did happen. I don't want to falsely accuse anyone or believe what I read by one individual on the internet, but I think that's a huge charge, and we saw that happen with John Paul II. It was covered up anyway under John Paul II, and now this. So he tries to say, especially this is probably coming in light to the interview where Bergoglio said, did you hear this? Where he said we don't need any more faggots in the seminary. I don't know if you saw this.
Weird. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So, as we've talked about before, he gives different answers to different people, and says different things. So, and that's Pius the Sixth, I think it was. I could be wrong, or maybe Paul the Fourth. I forget which one, but he said that's what heretics do, because then you can never accuse them of something. And he wrote this in one of his works. He said the tool of the modernist is to give both answers, and then when you point fingers at them, they could say, "Well, no, I said this." And then you could point fingers at them, and you could say, well, no, he said that. So you can't win. And that's a tool of the modernist. So people, they say, well, look at this. Bergoglio is vindicating himself here. Well, okay, but he's also said opposite to other people. And that is a well-known tool by the modernists, as popes have taught, to defend their positions either way. So,
well, it's interesting. It's also something that a certain, National Socialist Party in Germany in the 1930s and 40s did as well, that they they're called nationalist socialists. So it's literally it's a oxymoron. They don't work together. They shouldn't work together. And part of it is because they were opportunists, really. That they would just say what they needed to say or do what they needed to do to gain power. So and I think that's what, they even say that Bergoglio took a lot of his, if you've read the Dictator Pope, I think it was called, which came out a good 10 years ago.
Yeah,
pretty interesting, and claiming that he takes a lot of his ideas or the way he runs his politics, I suppose, or policies from Perón, from was he Venezuelan, Peruvian? Anyway, one of the dictators of the South America, where he would just lie to everybody about anything at all times, and just say one thing to this group, another thing to this group, and That's just how he.
And you've got both sides of the coin.
Power. Exactly, you got both sides.
Yeah.
But I mean, but to Vigano, I just don't. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think he's kind of a fool. I mean, I 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I was like, wow, this could be something else. This could be someone who's really going to change things, shape things. Maybe, hey, if you're looking at the thesis, I think I don't know if he's an answer, maybe not, but maybe he's a stepping stone to it at least. But now he's been in the dark for all these years. He throws these things out every now and then. Honestly, to me, it seems like he's just trying to stay relevant. I think it's pretty silly to be honest at this point, where it's just like he does these things in the dark. He said, there's these rumors that he was reconsecrated, reordained by Bishop Williamson. He never denies or confirms it. You can't do this kind of stuff. I mean,
well, I think what made him
interesting.
Or something. I think what made Vigano interesting is that he sees a lot of I think he said several times that there are issues with Vatican II, and there are aspects of Vatican II that need to be rejected. And people were hoping that he draws final conclusions based on those decisions. But I think what made him interesting to a lot of people, even in Sede Vacante circles, was that Vigano possesses jurisdiction. Vigano actually holds an office or whatever in this conciliar church. So that I think that is what a lot of the people, especially with the thesis, kind of looked at, because he could be one of those people that actually has the authority to govern this.
I think he's emeritus, right? I think he's retired.
He might be retired anyway. Yeah,
so I don't know, but at one point it was like, oh, okay, this is interesting at least. But now it's like,
right, because it was somebody in the conciliar church that held actual diocesan authority that saw the errors of the, but I don't even know what would you even consider? I don't think he's excommunicated, but I don't think Bergoglio excommunicated him or anything like that. Yeah, I don't really know his status, but he's a darling of the semi-trads, because they have made him their pseudo pope. Vigano says this, Vigano says this. I found the actually statement. I wanted to find it. These are the words of Pope Pius VI in Auctorum Fide. So here's the answer to how Bergoglio gives two separate answers on one particular issue. So, quote here: under the erroneous pretext that the seemingly shocking affirmations in one place are further developed along lines of orthodoxy in other places, and yet in other places are corrected as if allowing for the possibility of either for affirming or denying the statement, or leaving it up to the personal inclinations of the individual. Such has always been the fraudulent and daring method used by the innovators to establish error, because now it allows for the possibility of promoting error and excusing it. So that's exactly what he does, is he gives two answers, and then you could constantly point fingers. Well, he said that here and that there. A tool of the modernists, pay it no mind. And what really got me laughing too is all of these people saying, look, he's based, look, he's conservative, look, he's this, look. The Dalai Lama could say the same things. Like, it doesn't do anything for us. The bottom line here is he promotes a false religion upon the church. That's the end of it. I don't care how based he looks or what he said. He can condemn it 1,000 times for all I care. It doesn't change anything whatsoever. He can let out all of these base statements. It doesn't change a single thing.
Right. And just living in the shadows and stuff is just not. It's not Catholic. I mean, I understand if you're trying to save your life, and so I get it. But I mean, if you really want to, again, save the church, which hopefully he does, doesn't honestly seem like it to me. I'm sorry. He says a lot of nice things that are right on the edge of being what we think, but it's in the end, it's like, who cares? He comes out with a letter every now and then. Who knows who wrote it? Honestly, my impression is that he's probably retired. He's old. He's probably hiding out somewhere, sitting around, and you get these young men who are in contact with him, or older men too, maybe, in the traditionalist movement, who write up a big old letter and then give it to him for his stamp of approval and say, can I say this is from you? Yeah, sure. Maybe sure. I don't know, but I'm sorry, read some of the stuff. At the beginning, it sounded like an archbishop, even of the conciliar church. But the last few ones have been like, there's no way he wrote that. That sounds like something like one of these talk show hosts would have written. Right. And then just put the name Vigano. And honestly, why not, Matt? He's in hiding. Why don't I just start Vigano.com? Right. I mean, that's the problem with this stuff. You can say Vigano.com, and there you go. I'm Vigano. So I can start saying anything I want. Why don't I say Vigano.com? I'm Carla Maria Vigano, and I'm excited to make contest. Right? But that's the problem with the internet. You can't do these things in private. You can't secretly send letters. You can't secretly send tweets saying, "Oh, Francis is a pedophile," because that's not how this stuff works. Literally, any dude on his couch could have gotten a Twitter account that says Carla Maria Vigano. It's a joke. It's kind of dumb, but it does get attention because obviously saying something like that is extreme. And honestly, would we all be surprised if something like that happened? At least under his watch? Absolutely not. But anyway,
and it is strange that it does seem that Bergoglio has sort of left him alone, from what I gathered. Whereas men like Strickland there in Texas, who I think I said a lot less harsh things about Bergoglio, has been hammered. Frank Pavone as well, another one who really received a lashing. And then you've got guys like Vigano who let out even more rogue statements, and they're sort of just, I don't know,
Athanasius Schneider.
Just let be.
Yes, right. All the time saying these things that, they're the darlings of the trad world. But I think Bergoglio is a smart politician who understands. Look,
he is.
Someone has to be on the far side of our control
to keep it going.
It's a controlled opposition. I'm not saying for sure that's the case, but it makes sense. It's why, because if not, we've talked about this so often. Why would he not excommunicate Michael Matt? Why not excommunicate, Schneider, or maybe not excommunicate, at the very least censure or
remove from
a post or whatever they're going to do, and nothing happens. They claim things like heresy and apostasy and Francis is a clown, etc., and nothing ever happens. So I think it's all kind of smoke and mirrors, and I think especially Vigano. I don't even know if he's living anymore. I think his
that could be
name. I'm pretty sure his name is just
carries on.
Yeah, exactly.
That could
carried on by Billy Bob. Billy Bob Joe in his mama's basement. He's running a Twitter account.
I guess you could say, speaking about the authenticity of church issues and politics, and
exactly, authenticity of politics. How wild was that? I know we're already past half an hour, but I think we all knew that it's a sham. That he could definitely be convicted, and that it was looking like a kangaroo court that could actually end up doing something. But I never expected it to be convicted on every count. I mean, what?
What makes me laugh here, and I had this saved. I mean, first, before I even read this, just the thought that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and they all just walk around free.
Yeah.
So here's something that is funny. So this is from a Twitter account, Liz Wheeler. Hillary Clinton deleted 30,000 emails. Epstein clients walk free. Pelosi's rich from insider training. Hunter Biden is a cracked addict with hookers. Biden sold access to Chinese communities. Fauci lied about funding and gain of function that created the COVID-19 virus. Cuomo killed 11,000 elderly people in New York. Pfizer and Moderna lied about the safety of their mRNA jabs. Planned Parenthood sold aborted baby body parts with video, and all of these people are walking free, and Donald Trump is convicted for paying his attorney. The thing, first of all, I'm shocked that so many people care and are invested about who I am voting for. I didn't realize that my one single vote in a very meaningless state in this upcoming election mattered to so many people along so many.
It's become one of the issues of if you vote, you're not Catholic. Am I right?
Yes.
That is. Everyone there are people listening to this know who I'm talking about. And it's absolutely an absurdity. There is a stance on both sides. We've had podcasts about this. We had one with Louis Verrecchio and Father McKenna, and you can take either side. That's absolutely.
You're absolutely permitted to. You're
absolutely sure you can take the lesser of two evils, for sure.
And the thing was, and people, we talked about this too when Taylor Marshall was considered a candidate. Politicians in America have been taking their oaths of office on the Constitution, which contains condemned doctrines or condemned philosophies for centuries, and no pope has ever said anything about it or condemned it. In fact, what you can find is many popes, well, not many, but a few popes, Pius X included, saying very positive things and good things about America. So if it was such a grave issue, and the thing that I take more so out of all of this, and people have asked me to defend my position and all these sort of things, I am not pro-Trump. I think the candidate that we saw in 2015 and won in 2016 is not the Trump that we thought we were getting. I thought he was a lot more effective, or a lot more bold in what he was saying, and he governed differently. And I totally see that. But I think to call everything a conspiracy theory, to call everything a hoax, to call everything is just, I think it's just some desire for secret knowledge that doesn't exist. And I think Donald Trump, and I've said this on Twitter before, Donald Trump is pro-abortion. I don't believe the lie that he is pro-life. He is pro-abortion with exceptions. He is pro-limited abortion. He is pro all of these things that the church has condemned, and I don't deny that, and I don't glance past that. And he is by no means an ideal candidate. But we are faced with Bobby Kennedy, who I could in absolutely good conscience never vote for, Joe Biden, who I can absolutely in no conscience ever vote for, or Donald Trump. And I think those are our three options. And the Catholic is permitted, per bishops, per priests, per Catholic moral theology, to vote for the, I hate this, lesser of two evils, if in doing so passively you are preventing an even greater evil. And I think the threats, now I don't know if they're going to do it. The Democrats have had much time to do this, and they've never done things like enshrine Roe v. Wade in the Constitution like they said they were. But issues that matter most, say things like quote unquote religious freedom and all that, they're not being dealt with. They're not going to be overturned. It's just not going to happen. People are saying, well, abortion is secondary to things like religion. I agree with you. Protestantism is far more evil than abortion. But Protestantism isn't on the table for this election. We are faced with moral issues such as maybe immigration
or warmongering. What about warmongering?
Warmongering.
I mean, you're right when you say that Trump is not the same guy he said he would be. He did a lot of things he didn't fulfill. Right. He didn't, but he also did a lot. He said the economy was a lot better. I mean, you can't question that.
Which are
immigration was a lot better. There were no wars started, which is a lot better. Those are absolutely objectively true. And this whole crowd is like, yeah, right, exactly. You have judges who failed a lot, but they've also made a couple of really life-changing things, which, again, I understand. They still went to the states. That's certainly better than the other way around.
Almost 100,000 babies were saved.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. And it's going to be more and more and more. So don't act like that didn't happen. And I think that this whole idea that this is all a plan and stuff. And look, I do think that the political system and how elections are run are a joke. They're a farce. I think it's ridiculous that it's Biden and Trump. That's absolutely true. The whole thing that this is all just being run as a show and Trump's actually just being persecuted as it's like a TV show. I just don't buy it. That's too extreme. And if you want to believe it, that's fine. But I mean, honestly, then have your own opinions. Don't vote. But don't act like, Matt and I are these terrible guys for saying, hey, yeah, we're going to vote for Trump because we don't want it to be Biden. I just don't think that is not that extreme of a position. And I know that for a fact.
And when you look at catechism, somebody said that, well, all these catechisms and all that are kind of outdated and irrelevant to the current situation, which I could kind of see that, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But my Catholic faith, the Baltimore Catechism, they all talk about our duty as civilians, which I don't think could be ignored either.
Yeah. So let's. It's so true. Let's not listen to our last catechisms. Let's listen to Joe Smith 123 on Twitter. Yeah, their opinions are way better than the last true catechisms published in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. What a joke! I'm sorry, man. If there's anything that boils my blood, it's these people that well, I know better than the last catechism because that was back in the 1950s. Shut up.
And the thing is, the least that we can be accused of is you had Father McKenna on. We are following the direction. My priest has spoken about it, of our priests, our clergy, and even our bishops.
And Father McKenna Father McKenna would not vote. So Father McKenna is personally against voting, but very clearly said you can vote. You are allowed to vote for the greater good, I suppose, if that makes sense. That is allowed. I mean, read the article. Maybe I'll try to link it. I'm never going to do it, but Louis Verrecchio had a great article about it. Just AKACatholic.com and look up voting.
Yeah.
it's really, really good because he shows from moral theologians, that, for sure you can. And the question is, should you? My interpretation is you should. Purely my interpretation. It's not that clear. But I interpret it as being, yes, I should do it because I need to prevent a greater evil. Now, other people say that you shouldn't, but you can. That's I think that's also interpretation. You cannot tell me that you can't. So stop it. Stop acting like these moral authorities who don't know anything you're talking about. You're a bunch of black-pilled heads in the sand who want to go, cry about everything and whine about everything and mope about everything. It's the end of the world when it's not. It's not, Matt. I mean, if you want to think it's all a game and stuff, fine. Again, but stop promoting this whole, Eeyore, mentality.
Yes, that right.
It's all ending. Our world is terrible.
People have said that for 2,000 years.
America. Yeah, come move to Germany where it's illegal to be homeschool. But you know what? It doesn't mean I'm going to give up. It doesn't mean I walk around saying, "Oh, I hate where I live." Just stop.
That's one thing. That's one thing. People have said on Twitter, there are all these people, not all these people, but some of those in the crowd have called America the Great Satan. And if you think about it, how much more free we are here in a good way than in places in Europe where things like are just outlawed.
Yeah, and what country has the most traditional Catholics, Matt? By quite a lot.
Oh, the United States.
Of course it is. So just stop. I mean, again, I don't think America's perfect. I don't think the Constitution's perfect. It's not a Catholic country. If I could go back and change it, if I could go and be George Washington, yes, I would do it differently. But we can't rewrite history. We talked about that in the first segment, right, Matt? We can't rewrite it. This is how it is. It's not a Catholic country. Popes have supported America because they understand that politics are kind of, they're here and there. They're almost never a Catholic country. That's the fallen world we live in. So you have to do the best that you can in that country. And the popes are clear in that we have to do our best as citizens to push Catholic agendas and not just stick our head in the sand and cry.
And this is where people misinterpret. It's because of religious freedom here in America that Catholicism has thrived in a lot of communities and a lot of towns and a lot of cities, especially here in the Northeast. A lot of cities here in the U.S. Were bastons of Catholicism. Like Catholic headquarters here in America. And because of that, religious freedom, which is, again, I need to be clear, is a condemned doctrine. But because of that, we can tolerate those laws. And in doing so, Catholicism has thrived in a lot of communities and in a lot of towns. Can you imagine a Eucharistic procession or a Marian procession in Iran?
Yeah,
or
in Czech Republic. I mean, even now,
right.
I mean, the least Christian country in the world. I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it's the Czech Republic. I just read that recently, and it's because they were communist, and because the communists just shut it down. They totally said, nope, no more. This faith will no longer exist, and you'll be persecuted. And some were, and some died as Catholics, of course, and the priests would have to. I know stories of people in Kazakhstan. I have a priest here in Germany who grew up in Kazakhstan, and he, his priest would walk around in like a I think old military fatigues, if I remember the story right, and would offer the sacraments, would marry people. He'd go over to someone's house. The people would just kind of go and get married like in a closet privately with this priest who it's an incredible story of these people who did this, but it shows you that, America's the big bad guy. Maybe not. Maybe it's the communists. And if you want to argue that America's becoming communist, okay, yeah, but I could buy. But who is less communist, Matt? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? And if anybody says, "Well, it's because Trump's just putting on a show," just stop. Just stop.
So before we sign off, now the validity of this quote, I can't. Oh, I do have the link here. So this is from Pius X. Here it is. I love these Americans. They are the blooming youth of Catholicism. Tell them I gladly give them my apostolic blessing to their whole country. Wow. It was Pius X. And you can Google those words if you'd like. An article does come up. I don't quote me on that being an official quote, but it has been passed around. It has been sourced. So I give my blessing to their country.
Well, let's listen to Pope St. Pius X and not Joe Smith 123 Anonymous on Twitter, and let's fight for our values. Let's fight for our faith. Let's fight for our country, Matt. Let's fight for our country. Let's stop with this hating of our country. That's verging, and that's what Louis Verrecchio talks about. That's verging on sinful. It is. Patriotism is a virtue.
Yes.
Lacking patriotism, like aggressively, is a sin. Look it up. Talk to your priest about it. That's true. So actively hating your country. So it doesn't mean your leadership. It doesn't mean what your leaders do. It's your country. What your country should be. What it can be. Not what it necessarily is. If that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. But this idea that I don't, I hate it here because of everything that it is. Well, you better be real careful. You better move somewhere else because you might have to be in the confessional pretty soon if that's how you think.
Mm-hmm. And I think America has the potential to be a Catholic country, maybe not in its hierarchy or in its governance or whatever, but I think the commonality of the people can certainly shape a Catholic culture here. I think it's absolutely possible.
And last thing, Americans have the ability to do greater things than I think any country on earth. I truly believe that. They also have the ability to do the worst things, I think, than any country on earth. But I absolutely think that where America goes, the world follows in a lot of ways. And so I think Americans need to stand up to injustices. And I do think it's an injustice what happened to Donald Trump. And I do think we as Catholics need to say that. You don't have to say, hey, I love this man. But I think we do need to stand up and say, this is a farce. This is a farce. It cannot happen in our country. And we're not going to let it happen. And we're going to show that with our vote. We're going to show it with our billboards to the Sacred Heart, which I'm not saying that's necessarily Trump. I guess that's more the idea of making our country Catholic. Make our country Catholic again is what it absolutely should be. But let's be optimistic. Let's be positive and active, and go and talk to your priest. I know not all priests agree. Not all priests think you should vote. Sure. That's their opinion. I dare you to find me a priest who says that you can't. I dare you. That one, I'm sure you will not find. Maybe they'll say, yeah, my opinion is no, but they will not say you can't. My opinion absolutely is that you should vote and should be at least a little bit politically active. Matt, it's been a fun one. Boy, we went from
it was good.
Baseball, Vigano, politics. I love it. Appreciate it. Well, we will see everyone next week. Please let us know what you think in the comment section. What do you think about voting? Are you going to vote? Are you not going to vote? Do you hate Trump? Do you love Trump? Are you kind of in the middle with Trump? What do you think about the African or the black baseball players? I'm really curious what other. I hope I'm not overreacting to this. I don't think we are, Matt. I'm pretty sure we're on.
No, I agree.
On the point with this, but let us know what you think. Should they be in the official statistical categories of the MLB? Whatever else, let us know if you want us to talk about anything during the week. You can email me at kevin89davis@gmail.com. And otherwise, we hope to see you next Monday. Till then, Matt, have a great week. Enjoy your coffees. God bless.